All right, guys. So continuing on with the work on the crypto system, I've got on my calendar to do some work here and share it with you. And hey, Andrew, how you doing, man? Andrew, you just joined? All right. So,
Hi there.
How are you, mate?
I'm doing good, doing good.
All right. So it's just you and me here, but I'm recording it for the people who want it. I've done some work on the crypto system and sent it off to the programmers. I thought I'd explain it, and I want to do a little bit of work on some market filters in the next hour. So we might just give it. I might just give it one more minute to see who turns up, and then I'll jump right in. I'm just going to grab another cup of coffee. I'll be back in a second.
Same.
Do you think he's going to be asking for you to respond?
Do you know?
You could mute it so that he doesn't have the office in the background.
Where's my daughter? Oh, good morning, Mom. All righty then. Okay, so there's a couple of things going on. So the first problem that I ran into that I want to have a solution for, which I think I've got, is what's called data snooping bias. So data snooping bias is where let me give you an example. Okay, let's say you look at this period of price action and say, okay, I want to build a system to maximize profits in this. This would not be a very difficult thing to do, right? Like this would not be a difficult system to build, but implicit in that assumption is that the next bull market is going to look like the old bull market, and that's an assumption that doesn't hold water. That's an assumption that sucks. So the way to do that, the best way to do that is invented by a guy called Robert Bob Pardo, and he wrote some books on it. And what he does is he sequesters out some of the data, and he never builds his systems using that data, and then he tests his ultimate systems on the data that he set aside. So, so what I'm going to do is there are differences between the exchanges, and I'm going to build the system on Binance and then see how it holds up on Bittrex and Coinbase and things like that. And if it holds up, then I think we've avoided data snooping bias to some degree anyway. It's difficult to avoid data snooping bias in cryptos because of reasons that you're going to see. So the next thing that we need to do that I realized I wasn't doing was come up with a universe. Now, let me just load. So what I did is I went to sorry. So I went to the list of Binance market listings and I scrolled down through them all. And you can see that some of them are BTC USDT, which is USD tethers. Some are BUSD, which is some dodgy thing. Some are against BTC, some are against ETH, some are against weird stuff. ZIL, ETH, blah, blah, blah. And I thought about what are we trying to do? And in general, momentum systems are trying to beat the index. That's what they're trying to do. Now, in this instance, what is the index? So the index is, this is Bitcoin on a daily chart, which I think is a reasonable approximation of the index. So we've got total numeral 2 is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin. So what does the market cap excluding Bitcoin looks like? It looks a bit weird compared to Bitcoin. Let's look at it on a weekly basis. So the question for me is, conceptually, are we trying to beat the total market cap? And I thought about it, and I don't think we are. I think really the obvious play in crypto is to fucking buy Bitcoin, right? Like that's the obvious play. And if we're going to play the game at all, the benchmark should be beating Bitcoin, and we should be able to beat Bitcoin like a stick. And if we're not beating Bitcoin like a stick, then we ought to just be in Bitcoin because it's a much simpler trade, right? Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do. So I went down through these down to like number 360 or something like that. And I made a list. I'll share this in the comments of the YouTube video. And so anyway, so we've got like 116 on the list. Now, what I want to do is I want this, I don't believe that there's going to be a significant advantage in doing this every single day. There may be, I'd like to test that. But initially I'm going to do the system building, doing it once a week. I think once a week is about right. So I want to test some different versions of momentum. So momentum, if you look at, let's pick a random coin. Okay, if you pick if you look at any coin that goes up too fast, like from September to October, this is a very strong gain from 1564 to 2356. It doubled in a month. Has a statistically significant mean reversion effect in the following month. And this is something we see again and again. Pump and then a dump is very common in crypto. Pump and then a dump is very common in crypto. So we have to have a methodology that's predictive going forward that avoids the pump and dump. So the obvious thing for us to do is to exclude recent price action. And this is what the pro-grade hedge fund momentum systems do. So I want to test a couple of different versions of it. The standard one that they use for stocks mostly is 90-day momentum excluding the last 30 days. So the idea is that your top ranked stocks on a 90-day momentum excluding the last 30 days are going to have a statistically increased chance of gains in the future. So we're also going to test 30 minus, actually I'm going to make that 30 minus 20 to keep it proportional, and 45 minus 15. Now, after that, I want to put it, I'm going to build a bunch of these spreadsheets. Well, actually, a computer's going to build it for me. It's at the programmers now. So we'll put, at a certain date, like a week one, I'm just going to do it on Monday. And then I'm going to sort and rank these by 90-30 momentum, 60-20, and 45-15. First of all, the things that I want to know. Is there a difference? So I want to know, is there a real difference between 30-90? If they make the same list, then there's no real point in getting fancy, right? The second thing that I want to know is, is there an edge? And we can't just assume that it's going to work. We have to prove, is there an edge? And the way to do that is not to do a back test for a full system and say, okay, in the past, if we applied this system, we would have made money, because that's not proving that there's an edge. What we need to do is, if there's an edge, the entry technique alone should show a 30-day, a 60-day, and a 90-day performance, which gives us a positive scatter plot. And a positive scatter plot is going to look like this. We're going to get something like this. So what we're going to see is, if we've got if this is percentage gains and this is time, we're going to see a scatter plot that looks not like this, but it's going to look more diffuse like this, hopefully. And that's going to be how that we know we have an edge. And if we do that on the next thing that we want to know is, how far down does the edge go? So if the top ranked coin, we'll probably exclude Bitcoin, by the way. If the top ranked coin has a strong edge, the second ranked coin has almost a stronger edge, the third ranked coin, maybe it doesn't work out that way. But by the time we're getting down to the 30th coin, where does that edge die? So maybe the effect is strong but getting weaker. Maybe the sweet spot of the effect is somewhere in here. Who knows? We've got to see what the data where the data takes us. Which brings us to the next thing. And this is a very interesting thing, because if we look at let's see if I can find a blog where Ray Dalio talks about his Holy Grail. So here we go. Okay, so this is what there's a video called Ray Dalio Breaks Down His Holy Grail. So what we're going to shamelessly rip this off in our system, because all of the what's called risk parity funds use this now. So let me explain this. So this is the number of uncorrelated, this is the number of asset streams you have in your portfolio. These colored weightings are the amount of correlation between them. So this is a number of asset streams which aren't correlated at all. Things like, say, if you had, say, property in China, and you had Bitcoins, and you had bonds in Brazil, and you had US tech stocks, and you had the Turkish lira. Those would be a bunch of income streams which are, chosen at random for things that just have nothing to fucking do with each other. Unfortunately, we are not dealing with that. So we are dealing with a more complicated thing. We're dealing with asset streams which are basically the same. And the reason they're basically the same is if we look at, say, let's look at Neo Bitcoin. Let's look at ICX Bitcoin. Looks pretty much the same. Let's look at Ethereum Bitcoin. Doesn't look too different. Let's look at .BTC. Looks the same. You see what I mean? So we're dealing with a lot of things that look basically the same. If you get 5 things in your portfolio, and those 5 things aren't really 5 different things, they behave like the same thing, well, it becomes more difficult. So anyway, so we're dealing with highly correlated investments. And what you can see is with highly correlated investments, there isn't much benefit. Here is 5 of them. If we go and hold 20 coins, we haven't got much benefit, but we've got is a lot of extra complexity. Now, the thing that we really want to keep in mind is that the big money in this is Ethereum from $80 to 640 in a year. 10x's. That's or one of my buddies was on this Neo when it was like nothing. It was like 20 cents or something and went to $200. So the big money in this is catching one of those moves. Now, let's think about what it takes to be on one of those moves. Let's think about what volatility weighted position sizing, which is what we're doing. We're stealing it off Ray Dalio and all the volatility weighted funds. What they seek to do is to apply volatility measure to the coin and make sure that no matter what you hold, each individual position size has, in theory, the same effect on your return. So if you have 20 returns and you get a 100 bagger win, it's diluted by 20 to 1. It's had very little effect on your portfolio. Like, it's good, but it's smooth. In my opinion, what we're trying to do here is smash the ball out of the park. That's the game. We're trying to smash it out of the park. So in my opinion, we want to increase the effect of luck by having fewer positions. And that seems to be the most sensible way to go. So if you look at it, we're probably going to be looking at either somewhere between holding positions most times, somewhere between 3 and 6. And we need to work out exactly where is the sweet spot for that. So if we were doing this for a stock system, the sweet spot is between 9 and 15. So we've got differences already forming between stocks and cryptos, right? Like, because they're highly correlated, it doesn't make sense to hold 15 of them. It's just a lot of work. The transaction fees are higher. So we're looking really at any one time to hold the 3 best. So the next thing that we want to do is, once we've figured out, well, is it an edge? Which ranking methodology is right? How many do we want to hold at one time? These types of systems all use a market filter. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to test 3 different market filters and see, is there any difference between using a stupid one and a complicated one? So the three that are commonly used are a 200 moving average, let me just check the chat. So the three that are commonly used are a 200 moving average, a moving average crossover, and I think the obvious place to choose is actually, I don't know the obvious place to choose. We need to do some testing, so let's add that to the list. So the one that's common in stock systems is 50, 100, 80, 140 is also common, but I think those might be a bit slow for crypto, just because crypto moves faster. And the third one that I'd like to test is our holy grail definition of trending, which I think is a very good market filter. Now, which brings me to my next point. So, assuming we're making the goal of the system to accumulate Bitcoins, and accumulate Bitcoins faster than just holding Bitcoin itself. And this goal is starting to flesh out. It's starting to take shape now. The goal is to accumulate Bitcoins, accumulate them faster than just buying accumulate Bitcoin so that our pile of Bitcoins is increasing. And we need at some point to be able to jump out of Bitcoin, because obviously if we look at Bitcoin got to 13,800 and then dropped to 4,000 and then got up to nearly 25. Holy fuck shit. That's amazing. Bitcoin at 25,000, and previously, look at this shit. 13,000 down to 4,000. The big one, 19,000 down to 3,000. You can't hold from 19,000 down to 3,000. It's just not it's not a thing you can do. So we've got to run back to fiat at some point. The ways that we could do that, we've got to explore. Do we run back to? So one way of doing it, and let's explore that now, is to run back to fiat when our trending definition is hit. So we started downtrending here. So at this point, we'd be giving back a significant amount of profit. Actually we wouldn't. And this is very interesting because what happened here, I was trading these at this time, is after Bitcoin fell, altcoins went through the roof, just went ballistic. Running back to let's look at when it would have run back to Bitcoin, and let's have a little bit of an explore there. So here, back in thank you, baby. Breakfast, macabre. Okay. So here it would have run back to Tether at about 30% down, and then we wouldn't have been free to start accumulating positions until here. In its run up, we would have got out of it here at 986 and not started to accumulate until here again. I think this is worth exploring. I think this is going to be better than moving average crossovers, because moving average crossovers become problematical here. They leave us in for the big amount, get us out here. It's not too different than our trending definition, but actually the moving average crossover idea isn't too bad. All right, so let me add that to the list of things to check. Okay. Okay, so at this point, I think we've got a bunch of stuff to test. I'm going to get started on this. I've got the programmers online, and yeah, I'm going to get started on this, and we should have something to report back by the next webinar. So yeah, I think it's taking shape. I think it's going to be really good. All right, guys. Merry Christmas.